Journey of a Sister, Year 3. Mind the Gap. For 9 months, Suzanne has no contact with Charles. She misses him terribly, but refuses to be the one to make contact first. The first few weeks were like being on an emotional roller coaster. She didn't know if she could take much more of it. She felt sick. But instead of wallowing in self-pity, she had thrown herself into her African history classes and writing, recording and performing her poetry. Recently, a friend had introduced her to Inner Space, which offers free meditation classes to help her learn how to control her negative thinking patterns. In the first class, she is told to simply observe her thoughts and not try to do anything about them. She watches as they run through her mind wildly, like naughty children in a playground, screaming, shouting and behaving unruly. Suzanne learns that all thoughts are not her own and that she can choose which thoughts she wants to entertain. If she doesn't like a thought, she can simply choose another one. If she decides to entertain a thought, another thought like it will follow, then another and another, until a whole train of similar thoughts are running through her mind. If they're good thoughts, she can remain in a positive state of bliss. But if they're negative, they can lead to sadness, stress, anxiety, or even depression. Depression is just a fancy name for negative thinking patterns. Anthony Robbins. Suzanne learns that according to the universal law of sowing and reaping, her mind is a garden and her thoughts are the seeds. Her job is to keep the garden of her mind well cultivated by uprooting negative thoughts and replacing them with positive thoughts. If she doesn't nip her negative thoughts in the bud, they will grow fast and spread like weeds. She thinks about how this metaphor is like a real garden. Weeds grow much faster than flowers, and if they're allowed to grow wildly, will outgrow the flowers, stunt their growth and kill them before they reach full blossom. As the gardener of her mind, Suzanne learns how to cultivate positive thought seeds so they can blossom into flowers, and to uproot negative thought weeds before they can take root and grow out of control. Whenever a negative thought weed springs up, instead of watering, dwelling on it, and letting it grow into more negative thoughts, she begins to uproot them and replace them with positive thought seeds. Weed. I'm so broke. Seed. No, I'm not. I'm getting richer and richer every day. Weed. I feel sick. Seed. No, I don't. I am in perfect health, mind, spirit and body. Weed. I'm tired of being single. Seed. My perfect match is out there somewhere, and I'm attracting him into physical manifestation. Suzanne learns that all thoughts are either rooted in love or fear. A positive thought is rooted in love, and a negative thought is rooted in fear. By planting seeds of love, she can remain in a positive state of bliss. Learning how to meditate helps Suzanne to control her thoughts, which in turn help to control her feelings. Thoughts create feelings. In her meditation class, Suzanne discovers that her solar plexus, or sun center, located at the back of her stomach, will let her know whether she is thinking positively or negatively. Good thoughts create good feelings. Bad thoughts create bad feelings, her meditation teacher had simply put it. If she's feeling good, she will radiate positive energy. If she's feeling bad, she will radiate negative energy. Depending on the frequencies she's putting out, will depend on the types of people, situations and opportunities she will attract. Her thoughts are creating her feelings, but her feelings are the fuel which make what she's thinking about happen that much faster. So her emotions are the real attractor factor. Emotions is energy in motion. Back at home, Suzanne thinks back to the day she broke up with Charles. She had allowed her negative thinking to spiral out of control. From now on, she would make a conscious effort to maintain a good vibe. The way to keep herself feeling happy is to simply think good thoughts. This reminds her of a scripture. Whatever things are true, whatever things are honest, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of a good report, if there be any virtue, and if there's anything praiseworthy, meditate on these things. Philippians 4 verse 8. She begins being guided by her feelings instead of being controlled by them. If she's feeling bad, she now knows it's because she's thinking something bad. Instead of allowing her emotions to be controlled by outside forces, she stops going to church, stops watching the news, and makes a point of ignoring anything on social media that will trigger a negative reaction. Thoughts form. Suzanne is aware of how the media is being used to control the thoughts and emotions of the masses. If hundreds or even thousands of people believe what they've been told, even if it's a lie, their constant thinking about it will cause it to become real. This is how the select few had been controlling the masses for years, getting them to create what they want, which is a slave nation working for them, instead of creating heaven on earth. Meditate to create. Suzanne sits upright with her eyes closed. Whenever the boys are at their dad's for the weekend, after cleaning the house and clearing it of any negative energy, she spends hours in a meditative state. Before, she would feel lonely if she was in the house by herself, but now she looks forward to spending time alone. Loneliness and being alone are two different things. Being alone gives her time to connect with her inner self. On the odd free weekend, she will go out with her girlfriends or invite them over for a meal and to watch a DVD, preferably a comedy or something light-hearted. But she has decided to spend this evening alone, without the noise of anything external to interrupt her thoughts. She sits in a poised position with her eyes closed, breathing consciously, aware of her abdomen expanding and retracting. She keeps absolutely still as she creates a space between each thought, making the gaps larger and larger, until her thoughts have slowed right down, enough for her to enter into the silence. Sitting in the silence for relatively long periods of time helps Suzanne take control over her physical body and to hear the voice of her higher self more clearly. Sometime later, she opens her eyes feeling refreshed and rejuvenated, as if she'd just returned from a relaxing retreat. Sitting in the silence has become her favourite pastime when she's not writing poetry. Sometimes being in the silence allows room for inspiration to flow in, so she always has her notebook and pen to hand. Getting up to run a bath, Suzanne feels positively powerful. She had received an idea for how to turn her gift into a more profitable, money-making business. She is going to produce a book of poetry and an accompanying CD. Since she had already started recording some of her poems, the idea was perfect. She would be able to sell them whenever she went out to perform, which she needed to start doing more often. As the bath fills, she adds some bubble bath, Epsom salts and lavender essential oil. As she relaxes neck deep in the water, words come floating to her. She reaches for her notebook and pen and, trying not to get the paper too wet, writes,
I am fertile soil. I am fertile soil. When I plant the seeds of love in the garden of my mind, they're gonna blossom.
Think of every thought you have as a seed. The
thoughts you sow, you will reap. Thoughts rooted in love will grow into beautiful flowers, while thoughts rooted in fear will grow into fast-growing weeds. I am fertile soul. I am fertile.
Train up a child. Suzanne is spending quality time with her boys. After dinner, they shower and get ready for bed. "How was school today?" she asks, tucking them in for the night. "Boring," Micah replies. "Why? What lessons did you have?" "History, science and maths." "But you're good at maths. What did you learn in history?" "How Napoleon discovered the West Indies." "Oh, really? Did he tell you that without the Moors helping with navigation, Napoleon would have got lost at sea?" "Huh?" "I thought not. On Saturday, we'll do our own history lesson, okay?" "Okay." "What about you, Elijah? How was your day?" "Not good." "Why? What happened?" "I was sent out of class and got a detention." "What? For what?" "Well, I was doing my work and Tommy whispered to ask me if he could borrow my ruler. When I gave it to him, Sir called me out and said I was disrupting the class and told me to leave." "Are you sure that's what happened?" "I promise, Mum, I didn't do anything wrong." "Right, I'm going to make an appointment to see that Mr. White tomorrow." "Mum," Micah pitches in, "why did you stop us from going to the 100 Black Men of London classes?" Suzanne had stopped taking them after she split up with Charles because he was one of the mentors. "It's complicated," she tries to brush him off. "But I really liked it and we learned a lot of stuff they don't teach us in school." "Well, I can teach you now. Anyway, it's time for bed. Give me a kiss and say your prayers." Suzanne returns to her bedroom, wondering what Charles is doing right now and whether he ever thinks about her. She wonders whether it's possible to love someone without being emotionally attached to them. She still has strong feelings for him, but is that what love is? Just a feeling? What happens when the feelings fade? Do you just move on to the next person? But her feelings for Charles hadn't faded. She still loves him, but doesn't feel as needy as before. Why did I delete his number? I'm no good at memorising numbers since I got this smartphone. Just as she's wishing she could call him, it starts ringing. It's him. "Hi, Suzanne." "I don't believe it. I was just thinking about you." "I must have sensed it," he replies calmly. "You've been on my mind too. It's been a while. How are you?" "I'm okay." She wants to tell him how much she's been missing him, but the words just won't come out. "Just okay?" "Well, no, I'm great actually. What about you? What have you been doing with yourself?" "You're not going to believe this. I've been painting." Charles explains that the drawing he'd done of her got his creative juices flowing, and he'd been painting every weekend since they broke up. "Can I come and see them?" she asks. "Sure you can. When? When are you free?" "Tomorrow evening?" "Okay, great." That would give him time to tidy up a bit and put clean sheets on the bed. Suzanne arrives at Charles in a short skirt, heels and tight-fitting lycra top with a light overcoat. As soon as he shuts the door behind her, he hugs and kisses her passionately. He doesn't tell her how much he has missed her, but his actions speak louder than any words ever could. Then, taking her by the hand, he leads her into his spacious living room. On every wall hangs a new oil painting, signed and dated by himself. Suzanne walks around slowly, examining the symbolism in each painting. She could see where all his sexual energy had gone these past 8 months. Just by looking at them, she could tell something deep had been going on in his subconscious. "They're beautiful, but then I wouldn't have expected anything less coming from you." "Thank you. Choose one." She thought she heard him wrong. "Did you say Choose one? Yes, as my way of apologising for not calling you sooner. Suzanne knows straight away which one she wants. Can I have that one? She points to the woman emerging from a red tulip. It reminds her of everything she'd been learning in her meditation classes. Self-love? Sure, it reminds me of you, actually. Maybe I should let you keep it then. It's okay, I'm thinking of putting them into print anyway. The colours are so vibrant. Yeah, I incorporated colour therapy. Just by looking at them, the colours will have a positive effect on the mind and body. Well, I'm so glad to see you're finally taking your art seriously. Thanks to you. He pulls her close to him in a small gesture of appreciation. As they stand hugging and kissing, Charles inhales deeply into her neck, taking in the aroma of his favourite goddess oil. It brings back fond memories. He turns her away from him and from behind reaches under her top to fondle her breast with one hand while slowly lifting her skirt with the other. To his delight, she isn't wearing any underwear. He reaches between her thighs to feel her soft, moist opening. Suzanne lets out a gasp as his warm fingers begin massaging her clitoris. She can feel the urgency of Pride's passion from behind, which intensifies her own carnal desire for him. Suddenly, she turns around and begins tearing at his clothes, which gives him permission to do the same to her. Kissing passionately, they strip each other down, leaving a trail of clothes strewn across the living room floor, leading to the sofa, while keeping their lips locked and their tongues sensually wrestling. As they pass the dimmer switch, Charles masterfully reaches over and turns down the lights to a soft glow. He lands on the leather sofa first. Suzanne straddles him. At last, he comments. At last what? She thinks that means at last they're together again. You're in all your natural beauty, he compliments. Oh, you noticed. Suzanne had removed her synthetic wig, taken her hair out of cornrows, and smoothed it back into one just before she left home, knowing he prefers the au naturel look. Can I take your hair out? He asks, removing her hairband. She doesn't stop him. As soon as he releases her hair, it turns into a mass of wild curls. Suzanne tries to smooth it down, thinking it looks too messy. Leave it looks fine, he assures her. She looks erotic, wild, and exciting in the dim light, while his painting, Black Butterfly, forms the calming drop on the wall behind her. He can't wait any longer. I want to feel me inside you, he murmurs into her ear, searching for her opening. Suzanne raises herself onto her knees to make it easier for him to insert Pride. As she sits on him slowly, they both let out a sigh of relief. Suzanne holds on for dear life as they begin moving together rhythmically, slowly at first, then building up into a frenzy. She rides Pride as if she's riding a horse. It surely whips her into shape anyway. They talk to each other playfully and laughing, change into all their favourite positions. This is real poetry in motion, Charles jokes as he gently pushes her into the doggy position. He takes her hips in his hands and kisses each of her bum cheeks before inserting Pride into her yoni. He begins gyrating his hips as he moves back and forth. Suzanne can feel the bend in Pride massaging her G-spot. The sensation drives him wild too. As he gallops towards the finish line, he can feel the heat as he reaches the centre of her yoniverse. Who am I? She demands passionately as he drives deep inside her. He doesn't hesitate to remind her. You're my queen, he groans as he comes. Better, not bitter. Hours later, his cock is still hard as a rock, but Suzanne can't take any more. As they lay entwined around each other's bodies, Charles traces a line with his finger over the scar above her left eye, as if he's only just noticing it. How did you get this scar? Belt buckle. What? From who? My mother, bless her. How can you say bless her? She's scarred you for life. Suzanne sighs. She was only enacting her genetic coding. What do you mean? Well, as a descendant of an enslaved African, she was still carrying the trauma of her ancestors in her DNA. How does that explain away the scar? Well, on the plantations, mothers were taught to beat their children mercilessly in order to break them down mentally, ready for programming. If they refused to do it, the enslavers would. Plus, they didn't know when their children were going to be taken away and sold, so they formed no emotional bonds with them. My mother never hugged or kissed me. I think that was down to her genetic programming. Beating her children was something that had been passed down to her subconsciously. That makes sense. I remember learning about the imprint period. Anything a child is told repeatedly between the ages of 0 to 7 goes into their subconscious and becomes the program they run on for the rest of their life. That's right. So according to the Willie Lynch letter, the system enslavers developed guaranteed that they wouldn't have to keep breaking in new slaves being born because the mothers would automatically do it for them. It would just keep getting passed down from one generation to the next. So how can we break it? Well, apparently the 400 years is almost up. That's how long the system was guaranteed to work for. After that, it's down to the mothers to prevent it from being passed down any further, because they're the ones mainly raising the children. Well, how do they break the cycle? First, they have to stop taking their children to church. Once that religious indoctrination gets into the psyche, it acts like a virus. Only, it's not that easy to remove. It's the cause of a lot of our problems as a community, especially our finances, self-identity issues, and sexual frustration. Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. Do you remember what you were like when we first met? Suzanne laughs. Yeah, but luckily for me, I wasn't afraid to ask questions, and that's what led to the path I'm on now. Learning my history, or should I say her story, has helped me to begin to correct some of the behaviours I inherited. How do you feel about your mum now? I can tell you're not that close. I would have liked to have been, but she's not emotionally available. She couldn't give me what I needed because she hasn't healed from her own trauma. I forgave her for my sake, not hers. I just hope I haven't passed any trauma down to my children. Did you beat them? Suzanne looks embarrassed. Not mercilessly like I was beaten. And I balanced it out with lots of hugs and kisses and telling them I loved them, something I didn't get as a child. Well, that must have really affected you. But you know how to give good hugs and kisses now. Charles gives her a hug. She reciprocates. I practiced on my boys. I didn't know how to give or receive love, or how to express my true feelings. I've done a lot of work on myself to get to where I am now, and I'm still working on it. Well, that explains your outburst just before we broke up. They both laugh. Well, I'm just glad we're back together again. I love you. I love you too. Do you remember asking me about visiting Ghana with you? Yeah, you said you didn't want to go. Well, I've changed my mind. I want to visit my motherland. Great. We should plan a trip for next year. I'd love to take you to my father's village. Will you be bringing the boys? I'm not sure. I'll have to see if the money will stretch. Okay, well, I'll pay for your ticket, so let me know if you want to bring them and I'll look into the flights. Suzanne has to get back home. She has a class at 12 p.m. Charles offers to run the shower for her, but she prefers to keep the lingering scent of their lovemaking clinging to her body as a secret, subtle reminder for as long as she can. She finds her now crinkled skirt and top amongst the clothes strewn across the floor in the living room. After zipping up her skirt, with arms up, she squeezes back into her top. Charles watches her breasts disappear like a curtain at the end of an award-winning play. As she heads out the door, she kisses him gently on the lips before heading towards her car. As Charles re-enters his bedroom, he can still smell her essence lingering in the air, on the bed sheets and on his skin. This is going to be a long day, he thinks as he gets ready to go to the gym. He then decides against the gym as he's already had a good workout, opting to have a nap before getting ready for the 100 Black Men of London mentoring session. That evening, Charles calls. He isn't going to make the mistake of not calling again. "Can I come over?" "I'd love you to, but I've got some writing I need to do," Suzanne responds warmly. It's now autumn and her body clock has changed. She now goes to bed at 8 p.m. so she can wake up around 4 a.m. to write. If Charles was to come over, she would end up going to sleep late and wouldn't get her writing done. Plus, she's still a bit sore from the night before. Charles agrees reluctantly. He had tasted her sweet nectar again, and now he wants more. "What about tomorrow?" he suggests. She pauses before replying, "Okay." As much as she enjoys his company, Suzanne feels as if she's on some kind of mission, being driven to accomplish something. He says he can still smell her scent on his sheets and informs her of all the different positions he's going to put her in next time he sees her. While he gives a detailed description, they both pleasure themselves, talking each other into a heated frenzy until they both climax loudly down the phone. Saltfish. Charles had asked Suzanne what she wanted to do on their next weekend together, and she had suggested they go for a sauna and steam. They arrive at 9 a.m. Suzanne heads towards the women's changing rooms. "Meet you in the lounge area in 10 minutes, okay?" "Sure." Charles flip-flops over to meet her in his blue swimming trunks. She's wearing a yellow bikini with her hair wrapped in a matching yellow towel. "Fancy coming for a swim?" he asks. "No thanks. My hair doesn't like the chlorine." She heads for the jacuzzi. "Okay, I'll join you after my laps." Suzanne lowers herself into the bubbles whilst Charles puts on his goggles, dives into the pool and begins powerfully swimming to the other side. She watches him complete 10 laps before leaving the pool to shower and join her. "You're a great swimmer." "I used to be on the school team." "You've still got it in you." They relax in the jacuzzi for another 20 minutes, hardly talking, just enjoying each other's company. Afterwards, they head for the showers, where they scrub each other's backs and wash down before entering the steam room. Suzanne had already washed her hair and loaded it with conditioner. She opens her homemade sea salt, olive oil and essential oil mixture and, sitting on the warm tiles, begins scrubbing her arms and legs, feet, hands, torso and buttocks. She offers some to Charles, who scrubs his arms, legs and chest. She scoops a small amount into her hand and scrubs his back. He does hers. They allow time for the steam to help the mixture penetrate their skin before leaving the steam room. Suzanne untwists her plaits so she can rinse her hair. It's almost shoulder length in its natural kinky state. Charles offers to help. After showering down again, they relax on the lounge chairs where she sprays her hair with a leave-in conditioner and retwists it in 4 big sections. "Excuse me, you can't do your hair in this area. It's a public place," one of the staff says quite rudely. Suzanne rolls her eyes before wrapping her hair in a towel. "I wish I had a steam room at home." "Well, that's something to work towards," Charles says with a smile as he reclines with his eyes closed. He's just imagining the fun they would have. They leave the gym around 12 p.m. and arrive back at his place. He can't wait to get her naked and explore her silky smooth body. As he throws her onto his sofa and spreads her legs, he jokes, "There's nothing I like better than freshly steamed fish." Today, he's having salt fish. A great idea. In committing to be more attentive to Suzanne, Charles decides to devote more time to doing things with her and her boys. So now he goes to her house straight from work twice a week so they can all have dinner together and so he can take part in quality time. When it's Suzanne's weekend to have the boys, Charles takes them with him to the 100 Black Men of London mentoring sessions. When she doesn't have the boys, she spends the weekend at his place. So this weekend, they're at Charles's place. He's busy painting while Suzanne is on her laptop writing. "What are you working on?" he asks mid-flow with his brush in the air. "A poem called Black Scorpio Woman. It's based on my natal chart report." "Sounds interesting. How's it going?" "It's harder than the ones that come as a download." "Are you winning?" "I'm getting there, yes." "What are you planning on doing with all your poems?" "I'm putting together my first poetry collection, remember?" "Oh yeah. Well, I just had an idea." Suzanne is momentarily distracted. "What?" she asks in an interested tone. "Why don't we go into business together? My artwork and your poetry. We could start a new range of inspirational black greeting cards and prints." "Sounds great. The only problem is most of my poems are far too long to fit inside a greeting card." "Well, I'm sure you can edit some down to fit," he suggests. "That's not a bad idea." Suzanne looks at Charles's paintings again. She can now see how some of her poems would fit in with the themes of his artwork. "Yes!" she shouts excitedly. They stop what they're doing, link hands and start jumping up and down, laughing as if they'd just won the lottery at the thought of how much money they were going to make. Narrated by the author, Shazan Poetess. Intro and outro music by my youngest son, Azaba. Edited by my brother, Antonio Noel of Virgo 17 Productions. Music for poetry composed by Theo Caliste. Did you notice that while Suzanne was learning how to embrace herself in all her natural beauty and how to nip her negative thoughts in the bud, Charles was painting self-love? The following poem is a bonus track titled Straight from the Heart, which complements my painting Self-Love, featured in Year 3.
Although you say you're happy, deep inside you're hurting. I can feel your pain, you know it's true. Ow. You're not living your truth, it's all a lie. You really want to be you, but you're too scared to move. It's tearing you apart, fears gripped your heart, and you don't know what to do. Sad. To thine own self be true. Do what makes you feel good. Follow your heart, it will guide you to your truth. Follow your bliss. Life is for living to its fullest. Stop lying to yourself. Who are you? Are you living for yourself or somebody else? Do what you love, love what you do. Live your life straight from your heart. To live from the heart, practice honesty of mind, sincerity of spirit, and detachment. For where there is attachment, there is fear. And where there is fear, there cannot be love, because fear is the opposite of love. So detach from everything, and you will banish fear. Only then can you experience true love. If your heart's not in it, don't do it.
Before you download Year 4, visit the art page at journeyofaSister.com and download my paintings Self-Love and Black Butterfly, which feature in Year 3, and use them as screensavers on your phone, pad or PC to benefit from the colour therapy in them. Pre-order your personally signed paperback to get a free set of postcards featuring my art. You can also get them as A3 prints. And then you've got My King. I think this features in Year 5. And you've got Blue Lotus. That features in Year 4. And then you've got Self-Love. That's my favourite. Year 3. And, what's this one called again? Black Orchid. Yeah, this one features in Year 6, I think. And then we've got Blue Moon Dance. I'm not even sure if this one features in the book, but it's such a nice painting. And it says, I am open to the abundance of the universe. So you can get that one as well. Felicia Rashida is one of 4 fictional characters I created to expand on the topics raised in my novel. Hi, my name's Felicia Rashida, also known as Miss Tell It As It Is. And in this video, I'm going to tell you why self-love is the best love. But first, I want to tell you about a global pandemic that's affecting both women and men, including those who don't identify as a woman or a man. The pandemic is called People Are Suffering from a Lack of Self-Love. Suzanne was right to raise this topic in her novel. And in the second edition, she even explained what fornication really means, because it's got nothing to do with sex before marriage. You know what? Let me just read it to you, because it's not in the first or the third editions. Anyway, let me tell you the 3 things about me. Firstly, I'm neurodivergent. What does that mean? It means I think differently to most people. Most people are neurotypical, which means they're more left-brained. Neurodivergent people like me are more right-brained. We're all the creative people, the artists, the poets, the writers, the musicians, the designers, etc. Left-brained people tend to think more logical. Up to this point, I think I've been trying to conform and dress appropriately for these videos. They call it masking. But now I decided I'm just going to be myself and not try to be someone I'm not anymore. From now on, you're going to get the real Felicia Rashida. So now we are going to move to the topic of epigenetics. Because when them thieving Europeans was stealing Africans off the continent and colonizing our motherland, them did already know, say, childhood experiences and them environment can cause changes to their genetics. Epigenetics show how trauma can leave a chemical mark on a person's genes, which can then be passed down to future generations through their DNA. Me did ask Felicia to paint it because she did paint a different Adinkra symbol, but me did want this one because it's the one that Suzanne did use all throughout her book. Because it's symbolic of transformation. And me I go through my own transformation right now. So, we won't believe say me did use for wear the wigs and the weave and bleach my skin. But most of my transformation will take place within. Embrace yourself in all your natural beauty. Look within to find the love you've been seeking. Fill yourself up with love and then give of your overflow. As you do so, the whole world will be a reflection of the love you found within.